customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. You are listening to part 2 of 2 of the conversation between John DiJulius and Jess Shannon of Sandals Resorts International. If you haven't listened to part 1, we recommend that you go back to episode 249 and start there. Now let's catch up to the second part of this conversation.
The hard work actually starts after the launch, because is anybody going to remember and be on the tip of their tongue 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now? So how do you take that launch, and what are you doing to make sure that it is top of mind awareness? TOMA, in 19 resorts, 20,000 team members. What are you doing to make sure it's in come August of 2026 and February of 2027, people know this?
Well, I don't know, John, can I share a little bit about our Resort Rhythms competition, which I know
that was my next question. So, and that was so cool. Good. I'm glad you're going right into it. I want to set it up as, and if you might be using it. I got to see it. It was so cool. It's kind of America's Got Talent.
Yes.
Sandals Got Talent. That's how I describe it to people when I came back. I was blown away. So please.
So, and this is all in the spirit of, as you said, how do you make meaningful and sustainable change? So it's not a big bashy launch that's followed by the same thing the next day, right? Is how do you move the needle and also institutionalize so that it's a consistent movement of the needle? And, it got to be this kind of the cross-functional steering committee brainstorming a day and saying, how do we make this fun so people are engaged? It doesn't feel like they're eating their Brussels sprouts, right?
Right.
How do you make service fun and engaging? And how do you speak to everyone in a moment? And someone said, man, it's too bad we don't have a song, because especially in the Caribbean, music is so embedded in the culture. We said, we do have a lot
and
of
the talent. I didn't know and maybe the talent just blew my mind, but I'm sorry.
So, no, not at all. So we started thinking about it, and suddenly, you can see this paradigm shift between kind of theoretical discussion, and suddenly everyone's eyes are twinkling. We're saying, we have to do this. We have to do this thing. We have to launch a company-wide competition for a new service anthem, because it will then be immediately top of mind to everyone. It's going to be the ultimate fun and feel-good experience, but it's also an amazing way for people to remember the service statement, the pillars.
And so I want to make sure our audience listeners know this. The service anthem, that the contest, they had to include the statement.
We put in rules of the road.
Yeah.
And so we did a launch across every location, and every location had an individual competition. And the rules of the competition were, obviously it had to be team members, couldn't be kind of professional lyrics. You couldn't take anyone else's lyrics, so they had to be original. They had to use our service statement, our service pillars, and infuse our always and nevers in. And it had to be personally what Sandals or Beach's service meant to them. So it had to be personal, it had to be unique, it had to be original, but it had to include all of those ingredients. And it had to speak to our entire team member complement. So it couldn't be too specific to one team. Every resort, every destination had a competition. They got down to the final 2 at a location.
How many applicants or contestants?
Hundreds of applicants.
It was crazy. I only saw the final 4 or 5.
You saw the final 4.
Okay.
But we had hundreds of applicants. We got down to then 2 per resort. So we, and our headquarters, so we had 40 tracks. So each of the final 2 were professionally recorded. So that in itself was an experience for team members because they got to go to a recording studio and have the professional recordings done.
And you had a professional coach helping them.
We sat in a room for 2 days, the steering committee and 2 professional producers to narrow down from the final 40 to the final 4. And we listened to them blind, front ways, back ways, every which way, taking into account all of the different criteria. Did they meet the expectations, et cetera, but also getting that professional ear from the producers to make sure that it was going to hit. So we got down to the final 4, and then they had more months than intended because of our hurricane, which we can also talk about, but we flew them in to perform live. And when we flew them in to perform live, we also recognized this was an experience of a lifetime. So it had to be. So just like, any other competition, they had a week in Jamaica to experience life as a guest and have a whole host of experiences. So they got to experience life as a guest, being taken care of, all the different excursions that they could go on, but they also had a music professional coach. So Craigie T, who was part of TOK, a big band here, he is now a producer, and he was a voice coach for them and a stage coach. Because I will say, of all of the finalists, the final 4, none of them came from a professional entertainment background. So we had, our Club Sandals team, our butlers, landscapes, all different team members who had not performed professionally on stage before. So he helped to coach them, get them where they needed to be. We then had 3 judges, 2 who are professional musicians today.
Big celebrities.
Yes.
Yes.
And then our executive chairman. And each of the team members, it
was exactly like America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent. It was the same vibe and same, whole setup. I was sucked in. And
they had a wardrobe budget. We were able to do videos. Our light and film team was awesome doing videos of what their experience was, where they came from, where their passions were. So everyone got to see the human interest element of it as well.
They were all exceptional.
They were so good. They were absolutely so good. So we ended up with a winner. They were able to take home a large cash prize, which is exciting. But our executive chairman also made an on-the-spot decision that every single contestant, because they were so fantastic, of those finalists, was awarded a free, all expense paid flights and everything vacation for themselves and their partner at a destination of their choosing, which is also fun. So we're in the planning stages of their vacations as well. But that competition, which seemed small but ended up being kind of a big idea, got everyone talking and thinking about service and creating Caribbean moments and what that meant to them. And that will now be, as part of our launch and as part of our rollout and in perpetuity, our service anthem.
Listen, I don't know how. I wouldn't want to have been a judge. I don't know how they picked the winner because I loved them all. That day and maybe into the next day, that song was in my head. And now I've only heard it, that one time, a month and a half ago, but you're going to hear it constantly. No one's ever done that. My clients have gotten really creative with the customer experience Olympics and, this and that. But to have a song a great song, not like a cheesy, attempt at a song that is going to play in your head about, creating Caribbean moments and the 3 pillars was just genius. It was just so cool.
And I will tell you, the team, as talk about being CX obsessed, they were the duo who won. They even had kind of Mento Band shirts that were airbrushed, and they had service DNA strands on there, and they had the pillars and the statements even on their physical wardrobe, so that you could see and you could feel and you could hear kind of the service DNA elements within them, which was great. And I will tell you, John, spoiler alert, one of the things that we're going to be doing next is creating a dance for the song. And so we're going to have the whole package, but I will tell you, at least the top 15 we are creating we have an in-house permanent DJ. We're creating a Spotify playlist for our team members because the top 15 songs were so phenomenal. It was so hard to narrow down the great songs. And so you'll have like an entire playlist of service anthems, which is also really
And they're
cool.
all going to say, reinforce the same message in a different way. That's brilliant. Oh, that's so cool.
We said, these songs deserve to be heard. They deserve to get their moment in the sun and their airtime. So we're creating a playlist of.
And I love that you put your own Sandals Caribbean spin on it, right? It wasn't what, everyone else does. And now, they own it. And talk about that frontline buy-in. All right, but my last question that I want to ask you, that I'm not going to ask you yet, but it's so important. It's about what you did, Sandals, as a result of Hurricane Melissa, which I think blows everything we've already talked about away. But before I get there, we have a lot of leaders, chief experience officers, people that are already good at customer experience, but want to take it to the next level. What's your advice? Because it's not hard, and they may not have the unlimited, resources of doing a lot of these things. But it's a lot. When you hear all this, it's like, oh my God, and it's almost intimidating. That where do they start? What would you tell someone?
So the first year we actually had a mantra: we're changing the world one check-in at a time.
Nah.
Because if you don't start small and make a small but high impact change, it's really hard, because you get into analysis paralysis. You can look at everything and it feels like it's a heavy lift. Or you can look at everything and say, I need, to your point, millions and millions of dollars to fix this. And the answer is going to be no, right? Because you haven't proven the value of a function.
Right.
And so starting small, one of our pain points, a guest gets in off of a long flight and they just want to go to the beach. They want to get a drink, a pina colada in their hand, and they want to. So how do we, one, shorten that time? And then, two, reduce or eliminate some of the bureaucracy associated with an administrative function. And so we took that micro experience and we broke it down to all of its parts and said, okay, which can we eliminate? Which can we accelerate? And which can we make happy and experiential rather than administrative? And we piloted it at one location. We pivoted. We said what worked, what didn't work. How do we scale this? How do we roll it out? But my best message to anyone is, going back to everything in life is sales or service. Find one service issue that is small but can have a big impact if resolved. That one small pain point, fix that, and people will start to get on board. So that is, I would say, number one is
low hanging fruit.
Start small,
get
start narrow,
going.
and prove your value. And then the other thing is, if we talk everything that we've talked about today, we wouldn't be anywhere that we are on Service DNA if it wouldn't be for crowdsourced ideas and being inclusive. CX is not an exclusive club, it's an inclusive club. And so it is everyone's role and in everyone's DNA and in everyone's best interest. And so, knock down any barrier, any silo, kind of any lanes that you have, and try to crowd in as many good ideas as possible. Everyone looks at guest experience through a different lens, or team member experience through a different lens, and everyone has valuable perspectives to add. And if you can combine all of those, it's so much better than one team or one department going it alone. So, we have been extremely successful by being as inclusive as possible.
Jess, here's the toughest question I get that I truly don't know how to answer. And I know this isn't your situation at Sandals, but maybe in your vast prior lives, you worked with so many companies. When someone comes up to me after I speak or whatever and say, listen, how do I get a team of 100, 10,000 to act like this? That's easier, even though it follow the methodology, all the things we talked about. It's when they say, how do I get my boss, my CEO, my president bought in? I will say, buy them the book, have them come to the next presentation. But what I'm really thinking is, you're screwed. So I know you don't have that problem at Sandals. No. But
I don't, but I've seen it. I've seen it many times.
Yeah. So what if someone says, all right, they don't see the return on investment, they won't, they'll do lip service, but they really, and back to your earlier points, they chase the shiny objects. This month, customer experience, but next month we, blah, blah, blah. What would be your advice?
You're not wrong in underestimating the complexity there. Tone at the top and buy-in is foundational to success in pretty much any initiative that you look at, because there's empirical data that most change initiatives fail, and one of the number one reasons they succeed is the buy-in. So it is foundational to being able to move the ball forward. That being said, it's one, kind of going back to what I said from my Peace Corps days, it's understanding the way someone wants to receive a message and the appeal that's going to be in it for them. So as a CEO, you have different types of CEOs, right? But what matters to them? Is it the information from the ground? Is it the data analytics? Is it the finance? So understanding the way in which they like to receive messaging and what is the most compelling type of argument to them, stepping apart from service, what speaks to them? you watch them, you're observant. What is the way to get them over a finish line with any goal or any objective? Replicate that as it relates to service, because there is, if you want data on, service experience improving NPS, we got it. If you want service experience as a reduction to compensation, we got it. If you want service experience as even a cover up of other challenges that you have, we got that. So what are the different levers that matter most to them, and being able to help address that? I think communications and communications planning is one of the number one ways that you have to both get stakeholders on board, but keep them on board. So, one is understanding what matters to them and why it matters to them, and being able to speak to that a very specific point of view, but then coming back to them so that they don't forget. So here's what you told me was important. Here's what we've accomplished so far. Impact of what we've accomplished so far. Here's where we have to go. Because I think one of the other reasons that sometimes things fail when you say the new shiny object, you've gotten the CEO on board one time, but then you fail to show that you've had an impact, and you fail the communication strategy to come back and return to them. So it's not their fault that in a quarter they've lost interest and they're focused on something else. It's kind of yours for not keeping it on the radar screen or not demonstrating the success that you had.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone right now today doesn't have the buy-in they'd like from their top, it's possible. And I think it really comes down to ROI. You have to have we call it ROX, return on experience. What
Correct.
will that do? More referrals. What does that mean if there's an increase in 5%? There's a top line and a bottom line number, and I love it. Okay, the last question,
and one thing I will say about that is you may, as coming in new to a company or new to an organization, you may not have the credibility yet, but someone in the organization has the credibility to be able to speak to a CEO, right?
Yes.
Like, there are trusted advisors everywhere. And so you may not immediately win over your boss because you may be new and they may be change averse, or a whole host of other competing priorities may exist. But also understanding who is influential within the organization and helping to change their heart and mind and become, they can become an evangelist for your cause when you may not be able to be the direct evangelist, I think is important to recognize as well.
Love that. All right. The last question, you've been so generous with your time is, and this could be a whole podcast. In the fall, I believe it was in the fall, Hurricane Melissa obviously threw a wrench into a lot of things. I'm like, oh, this is screwing up our timeline, which is the least of things. Talk about, because obviously in the U.S. we probably don't know the devastation, the inconvenience, which is such a minor word to call it. But more importantly, what Sandals did for Jamaica and their employees impacted.
Melissa was something we would have never wished on anyone. It was a very slow moving hurricane that couldn't make up their mind where they were going, kind of weaving in and out, and ended up landing in Jamaica. It had the strongest wind gusts in recorded history around the world. So that's not Jamaica specific. That's typhoons, that's hurricanes, that's tornadoes, everything. And it literally blazed a trail through Jamaica, and our Sandals South Coast had the incoming eye of the hurricane, and two of our resorts, Montego Bay and Royal Caribbean, had the outgoing eye of the hurricane. And so you can imagine the devastation, but it really did, as far as Jamaica is concerned, cut a path across the country. I'd say, one of the things that we were very fortunate to do was have a lot of preparation, with most of our team being by and from the region. You could tell early on this was a different type of hurricane than most. And so we did a lot of preparation that I think made the aftermath a little bit better than what it could have been. So we were encouraging all of our guests to fly home, waiving change fees, working with airlines to get additional flights on board to get guests home. We still had 1,000 guests on island during the hurricane. So our team members on resort were taking care of themselves, taking care of their families, but also taking care of our 1,000 guests that we had on island. In the immediate aftermath of the hurricane, we did something that I think is really defining from a guest side. We said, everyone's been through a really traumatic and really scary experience. We want to be able to get you home as quickly as possible so that you can go see your loved ones, you can communicate. Let's not wait for commercial partners and our commercial airlines and flights. So we actually chartered a plane the day before the commercial airlines were able to re-enter to evacuate our guests essentially from Jamaica. And we worked even with the U.S. government, the State Department, to have them kind of get a hero's welcome when they came into Miami. So they had a dedicated security line cheering like they were an NFL football team. I thought was just such a moment where it mattered so much to our guests who felt very vulnerable in the situation that we were able to come together as a company, and working with the government of Jamaica, working with the U.S. State Department to make that happen for our guests was, I think, an amazing story. But I think even more, as you mentioned, our team members were.
Well, before you go
absolutely-
there, the thing you have that I have to add to this,
Yeah.
I've had, I've been a business leader, during 9/11, okay, the Great Recession and the pandemic, okay, which we could all relate to. But I'll be honest, when you see that, you're like, oh my God, the revenue we are going to lose as a result of closing and being affected, and woe is me. And we were expecting and doing, and how are we going to, you guys put all that on the back burner. I mean, you lost revenue. You were closed. You had to rebuild property. You're still rebuilding some properties.
Yeah.
But in all doing that, you focused on getting the guests the hell out of there. And it's just incredible. And then please go into what you did. Yeah.
Well, I should mention on the guest side, because you kind of talked about it or touched on it, a couple of other things that we did. We said, the guests wanted to go home immediately. Airports weren't open. We couldn't do that. But we waived any kind of distressed rate, any kind of rate that we had, said, you're taken care of on us. This is your home. You're taken care of on us. So we took any financial burden off of the guest in that moment when they were already stressed. And then we actually said, and because, we know this wasn't the vacation that you had envisioned, you have a free replacement vacation. So they actually also then have a chance to come back and experience Jamaica or Grenada or St. Lucia in a way that they would want, which I think did wonders in terms of, ensuring that they had maximum confidence in the brand going forward. So we did all of that. But I will tell you, our team members were the unspoken and true heroes of every moment of that experience. Like, from taking care of the guests to when Adam went and saw our Sandals South Coast property, which had taken the incoming eye, he was talking to the team members. It was the same week, and 80% of our team members there had lost their roof or their house. And that's how devastated the local community was. And so he was talking to all of them, and a number of them actually said to him, how can we help you rebuild as quickly as possible? because their spirit was such that they were taking care of the guests and they wanted to come together and really save the business together, which I think speaks to the family kind of feeling of the resorts. But what I think we were able to do in the wake of it in ensuring that our team members were taken care of. So we immediately gave a cash infusion to team members saying, we know you need to take care of, you have immediate expenses. And it was that moment of saying they had been personally devastated, but 80% of team members in that region had lost either their roof or their house, had major or irrecoverable damage. And here they were focused on how to help rebuild the company together, because there is that much of a family feel to the community and the company, which is fantastic. But I think, more importantly is we knew clearly that while they wanted to do that, what we needed to do first was take care of them as our own family. And so we gave immediate cash infusions to folks because we recognized there were immediate needs that had to be met. So we gave immediate cash infusion to every team member so that they had that and they could provide. We also we had everyone who was in Jamaica complete a form, and we did assessments of how damaged their house and their contents were. And we gave rebuilding grants and actually bought the materials to rebuild our team member housing. So we have, if you pulled up to our hotel at week 2, it looked like it was a lumber yard, but it was actually our kind of ground zero for helping to rebuild all of our team members. We gave care packages, and we said, we don't want people to come back time and time again to have to get care packages while they're focused on their families. So we gave a month's supply of stuff, everything that they would need to be able to take care of their family for a month in one care package, to make sure that all of our team members had everything they need, not just for themselves, but for their families as well. And then we did have 3 resorts, which are going to be closed for essentially now it's a year. And we said, we can't have them worrying about what's going to happen next in this moment in time. And so those 3 resorts that are closed, we did make the announcement that all of those team members, 100% of the team members for those resorts, would collect full pay until the resorts reopened again.
It's unbelievable.
And we get to use the time to help give them additional training, additional coaching, give them personal enrichment opportunities so that they have that chance to do some things they hadn't been able to do when the hotel was open. So they're hopefully benefiting from the service DNA training and all sorts of other things while they're taking care of their personal needs.
One of my favorite lines is EX equals CX. and employee experience equals the customer experience. And this shows exactly why Sandals and Beaches has such a great reputation for customer experience, because of the way what you do for team members, not only on a day-to-day level, but when shit hits the fan and you're there for them. It's just, and I got to experience it, and hear these stories and have people tell me when I'm dining what you guys have done for them. And this is why people have been in these positions and with you guys for 20 plus years. And it's just, it's remarkable. Jess, thank you so much. It's such an honor to work with you. I feel guilty because I honestly believe I've learned more from you than I think I've taught professionally. But I will also tell you, better than my highlights of all the times of working with Sandals and the coming out there is when, after a workshop, you and I and some of the extended steering committee will go out to dinner, and we get to talk, and it's about your dad, it's about your growing up, it's about your life, it's about your significant other. Like that, it has really meant so much to me, and you truly walk the talk. So I can't thank you enough of all of what you've taught me, and I really appreciate it.
John, it's a mutual admiration society because, one, we have learned so much, and you have contributed so much to the kind of legacy, the new legacy of Sandals service, which is phenomenal. So a huge thank you to you. And also, I think you have been sandalized enough that people view you as a genuine team member. And so I would say, very much,
compliment.
as much as a coach and an educator and an expert in your own right, you're also, in the best of ways, part of the team. So we look forward to continuing the journey with you. We know we've accomplished great things, but we're going to accomplish even more in the coming year. And we're just so grateful to have you on board. And Karima's going to continue to be that phenomenal superstar that she is. So thank you. And thanks for the time today. It's been fun.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, revolutionaries. And we will see you next week on the Customer Service Revolution podcast.
What separates world-class customer service companies from everyone else? One significant factor is having someone dedicated to designing and managing the customer's experience. The Customer Experience Executive Academy trains leaders to excel at this. Find out how to enroll now. Contact Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com for details.